Training to be a flight attendant is one of the hardest things I've ever done, but it is also the most rewarding. If you're watching this, I'm assuming that you just got hired and oh my goodness, you are about to go on the adventure of a lifetime, and I am so excited for you. Before we get started, let me introduce myself to those of you who are new here. My name is Charissa and I get paid to fly places. I love vlogging about travel, wellness, and my life living on an island. If you haven't yet, it would mean the world if you subscribed and gave this video a like, and thank you for being here. I'm currently on a layover at a hotel, so this is my background, but this is the life of a flight attendant. So let's get started. Tip number 1, know your study style. For me, writing, i.e. note-taking, is how I learn best, and taking notes is a bit of an art form that I've definitely not mastered, but with a highlighter and a ballpoint pen, I like to format my notes so that they're organized and concise so that I can go over them outside of class and really hammer the important points into my head. Color coding also really was helpful for me. I would always highlight something that the teacher seemed to be repeating, even if it didn't really make sense to me at the time. Usually, this is a hot tip, usually the things that are repeated, those are the sorts of things that are on the exams. Another tip is to make flashcards as you're taking notes. That way you don't have to go flipping through your notes later and make those flashcards at a later time. I would also record my notes out loud on my phone, or I would just read from my flight attendant manual, again on my voice memos on my phone, and then I would listen to those audios on the way to class or before bed. So know your learning style and working with it is such a good tip. If you're not sure what your learning style is, I'll put a link to a quiz that might help you figure it out in the description box. Acronyms, rhymes, and dances. This sounds odd, but speaking of learning style, there were some of my classmates that were really unique at how they applied their training. One girl was a competitive dancer, and she would make up moves and a little song for learning our aircraft doors. She would act out how to open, say, the 767 and turn it into this little dance. It was so cute, and she did amazing with all her practical exams, so I guess that worked for her. Some of us also made up a lot of acronyms and rhymes to help us remember things, and I still use these acronyms when I'm checklisting things off in my head on the plane, and this really has helped things stick. Make pretend aircraft doors. So at my airline, at one point we had to know 10 separate aircrafts. This is a lot. We don't have that many anymore, but it can be very easy to mix them up in your head when you're practicing aircraft doors or writing an exam. When you're on the plane, everything makes sense, but on paper or just trying to open up a door just in your head, it can be very confusing. When I was practicing for my door drills, I would put my chair in the orientation of a specific aircraft I was studying. I would put the chair next to my bedroom door, and then I would practice opening the door and imagining the specific aircraft in my head and doing all the motions and everything, and it really worked for me. I know one friend who would use the fridge as her practice door, and she would put post-it notes all over it. She would draw like a viewing window and a handle, so you can get really creative and just see what works for you. Ask questions. There are no dumb questions. Okay, so there are. And trust me, I asked them all. I was the annoying one in class that constantly asked questions. You can ask all my classmates from that time, but don't be shy. If you have a question, there's a good chance that someone else has the same one. And if you're going through class and there's no time or opportunity to ask the questions on your mind, write them down and then ask your trainer after class. They are there to help you. Chegg flashcards. So this is a really good study tool. This app has stacks of flashcards that you can make yourself, and they also have flashcards that already have been made for different aircrafts, emergency and safety procedures, but just be sure that you're not quizzing yourself on information that may not be correct. So I would definitely recommend making your own flashcards and then quiz yourself on them every morning before class or before bed. I actually hear that studying right before bed helps you remember the information better. I think the brain tends to ruminate on whatever we think about right before bed, so it gets deeper into your subconscious. That's why I don't watch scary movies before bed, because I will dream about whatever I think about before bed. So that's a great little hack, studying before bed. Listen really well. This sounds like such a stupid tip, but when it comes to exams, the trainers really do a good job preparing you for them. In my experience, almost everything that is spoken about in class tends to show up in an exam. Again, like I said earlier in the video, if the trainers are repeating something, it's probably on the exam. The trainers really want to see you succeed, and if it's talked about in class, there's probably a reason. Set a 10-minute timer and minimize distractions. So the hardest part of studying is the first few minutes, at least for me. Procrastination is so real, it is so difficult to get going. So you're going to lie to yourself, inform yourself that you only need to study for 10 minutes. Obviously, when that time is up, you're already going to be in study flow state. You'll just keep studying. This is a trick that I use to force myself to study and just stop distracting myself. You can also picture Kim Kardashian standing over you with a pep talk.
I have the best advice for future flight attendants. Get off your fruitcaking behind and fruitcaking study. It seems like nobody wants to study these days. You have to surround yourself with people who want to study.
Thank you, Kim. Study groups. Speaking of surrounding yourself with people to study with, I found study groups to be so incredibly helpful for me. I would often find, as I studied, I would miss something, and then I would join study groups just to make sure I was on the same page as everyone, and I was often able to help someone with something they missed, and they were often able to help me with something I was confused about. So we quizzed each other before every written exam, every practical exam, and it was so helpful. If you don't have a study group, form one yourself or ask to join one. Nobody's going to say no, and it's a great way to meet your classmates. Surround yourself with the studious ones. In training, you're going to meet a lot of different people, and some people might not need to study as hard as you might need to, or some people may not be taking the training as seriously as you might be. With my particular airline, the one that I started with, we were actually sent to Disney Institute for customer service training, and we went there before our final exams, which was really bad timing. I really wanted to go out with people and spend times on rides and enjoy Disney in our free time, but I just kept telling myself that the rewards of graduating are worth more than having fun right now. So I didn't do that. I basically just studied the whole time I was in Disney, but it paid off. Don't try to work a second job. When I started training, I thought that I could work my current job and train at the same time. When I realized how much went into training, I had to make a choice. Is there going to be a plan B, or am I just going to put everything I have into this so that this is my job and I don't have to count on maybe returning to that job if I fail training? It can be so scary to put all your eggs into one basket, but if this is what you want, that's what you need to do to guarantee that you have success. It's all or nothing. You don't want to give half of yourself to this process. You want to give all of yourself to it and see what magical things happen. Pretend you are teaching. So this really helped me. I would talk to myself out loud as if I was a student, and also simultaneously being the teacher and talking myself through what I was trying to learn. They say if you want to learn something, teach it. Remember, you're being watched. Without meaning to sound creepy, please keep in mind that you are being graded not just for your exams, but in conduct. Instructors are actually told to watch your behavior as well. You are a representative of the company. And so, for example, you don't want to be treating your colleagues rudely. You don't want to come to class hungover or showing up in crop tops and Daisy Dukes. You have to keep things professional, kind, and positive, because they are taking note of your behavior and how you handle yourself. Take care of yourself. This is not the time to be eating McDonald's and drinking alcohol every night. You don't want hangovers or sluggishness the next day. You need to be mentally sharp, sleep as much as you can, feel hydrated, and feeling good. You might want to consider packing your own lunches and snacks, bring your own water bottle, and honestly, just avoid the drama. But I really cannot stress how important sleep is. I remember at the end of training, our classes were going to midnight to get everything done in time, and we were all so exhausted, like at the end of our ropes. I remember one day near the end, someone had failed an exam and was released from training, and that just scared me because we were at the end of weeks together and someone who was working really hard got let go. And I was just so tired and emotional. I ended up walking through an emergency exit and set off all the fire alarms in the training center. People still tease me about it, but I was just so exhausted. I couldn't even see straight. You cannot retain information if you're tired. You're reading your manual or whatever, and you're reading the same line over and over and over, and you don't even know what you just read. I don't know if this happens to anyone else. Sleep is vital in this process. You won't get as much sleep as you are used to, let's be real, but do try to get at least 7 hours minimum if you can. I hope these tips were helpful to you. If you have any tips, share below in the comments to help other people who are studying. If you are about to start training or you're in the middle of training, just know that you can do it. It is really difficult, but it is doable, and the reward of graduating cannot even be put into words. Keep the finish line in sight, stay positive, surround yourself with studious, like-minded people, and I know you've got this. I believe in you, and if you have any other questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments, as I do try to reply to them all. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you want to see more videos from me, and please give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you next time.